I'm Karlyn Tolley. I'm very excited to give this presentation today. It's on a topic that I love learning about. It is a subject that just piques my interest every time. I love reading and studying and gleaning as much information as I can. What would you say is the best source of inexpensive, wholesome, and delicious foods?
Farmer's market.
The farmer's market.
The home garden.
The home garden. That's it. That's mine. The home garden. We are going to talk about how the home garden provides you with the most delicious, the most wholesome, and the most inexpensive foods you have available. When you have home garden, you can pick it at the peak of freshness, peak ripeness, and that is how it is the most delicious. Peas picked fresh from the garden are 10 times sweeter than you get in the store. Tomatoes in the store just don't compare to what you can get in the garden. Lettuce picked in the morning, fresh, crisp, cool, delicious. Same with those cucumbers. You just peel off that skin and it has a wonderful, wonderful cucumber taste as opposed to the water that you can buy in the store. What are some of the practices for the wholesome claim? What are some of the practices that big commercial producers of fruits and vegetables do to ensure they have a good harvest?
They specialize growing the same thing.
They specialize growing the same thing. Perfect. And when they specialize growing the same things, that means that they have a limited number of crops they're growing. So they don't do crop rotation, which is where they plant different crops in different spots. And since they are growing the same crop in the same plot of land over year after year after year, they are using those same chemicals of pesticides and herbicides in that plot of ground the same year after year after year. And as they do that, the plants gain a resistance, the plants and the dirt, it gains a resistance towards, the insects and funguses that attack these plants gain a resistance year after year. And so in order to combat that is that they have to then spray on more chemicals and more pesticides and herbicides to combat this increased resistance. And that means that as you buy that produce, you are then getting more pesticides and herbicides. And we as consumers have come to think that bigger is better. And because of that, it leads the commercial producers to insert artificial growth hormones into their crops. And as they do that, it is just another chemical that as a consumer you end up purchasing. So that they don't have to spray on all of these chemicals and growth hormones and everything, they have come up with genetically modified organisms in seeds which promotes the seed and the plant to grow its own pesticides and its own herbicides and its own growth hormones. And genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, are highly debated. It's a very heated debate. You can go online and Google that. There's lots of different opinions. But some of the people that have studied it have said that GMOs can lead to severe health problems such as heart disease, cancers, nervous system disorders, and many, many other things. The information on GMOs are still coming out very, very highly. Here we have a chart that shows the percentage of difference of 5 different organically grown vegetables compared to their conventionally grown counterpart. We have lettuce, spinach, carrot, potato, cabbage, and it rates the percentage of difference of vitamin C, iron, magnesium, and phosphorus. And as you can see, spinach has, an organically grown spinach has 50% more vitamin C than its conventionally grown counterpart, and carrot has almost 70% more magnesium than the conventionally grown carrot. And as you look at this, you can see that the organically grown produce has almost always ranks higher in its nutrient content than the conventionally grown produce. though you aren't growing organic produce, you are going to be employing a lot of the same techniques as the organically growing producers must employ to gain that certification. Um, in your fresh produce, there are many, many different nutrients like vitamins, minerals, proteins, etc., etc. One of those nutrients that the information is up and coming is called phytonutrients. And phytonutrients our knowledge of that is still in its infancy. And some of the things we do know about them are, many of these phytonutrients are lost soon after picking, which is why they taste so much better after they've been picked, because they have these sugars and phytonutrients that are gone, that are there, the people that study these nutrients claim that they reduce the risk of certain cancers, heart disease, and macular degeneration. One of the most well-known phytonutrients are carotenoids, and carotenoids such as alpha-carotene and beta-carotene are found in carrots, pumpkin, broccoli, and other yellow vegetables or leafy greens. You've heard of the saying that carrots are good for the eyes. Well, that's where it comes from. The beta-carotene and the alpha-carotene are the carotenoids that help your eyes. All of these things put together shows why they are why homegrown produce is very wholesome. Inexpensive. Well, most people that have a garden say, no way, that is so not inexpensive to grow a garden by the time you fix the soil and purchase the plants and everything. Well, what you have to do is you have to compare the garden produce to produce of similar quality, and that would be the farmer's market. Anybody that shops at the farmer's market doesn't shop there because it saves them money. They shop there because the quality and the taste is just superb. And so, by this point, after all of that yummy information, you can just taste those tomatoes and cucumbers and everything in your mouth. You're ready to jump out there and plant your garden, but you can't. Growing season's over. But what you can do is you can step back, you can go to the farmer's market for the next few weeks, taste all of these different varieties that you think you might like to grow, and get ready to find out what you do want to grow, because even a little bit of growing your own produce is a big benefit to your health. So go to the farmer's market, pick out your favorites, and talk to the producers there. They're usually more than happy to help you know what these plants need to produce well. And if I have any questions, if you have any questions, just let me know. What are some of the questions that you guys might have?
Where can I go to find out more about genetically modified crops and conventional versus organic?
To find out more about genetically modified organisms and crops and pesticides and everything, go ahead and just go onto Google, and you Google it, and you will find just a lot of information. You go to the library. The library is a great source of that information. Anything else?
What are your favorite things to grow in your garden?
My favorite things to grow are tomatoes, cucumbers, and squashes. I love summer squashes and winter squashes. Anything?
So, if I generally buy from a commercial supermarket, um, why should how do I compare my garden produce cost with the cheap stuff at the commercial supermarket?
Well, as we addressed earlier, you can normally buy your produce at the supermarket, but as we just discussed, your homegrown produce provides so much more than just taste, so much more than just cost. It is taste, it's nutrients, and it's the joy of working in the garden. So you really need to make sure that you're including all of those in and not just the money. Thank you very much.